even if you don't establish or renew a relationship, or you don't have an established relationship with a company, yeah, any businessman with half a brain cell understands that it's incredibly difficult to move things around right now, both financially and logistically. So in that regard, there is a lot of leeway, and everyone tries to, remain as friendly as possible.
Well, Mark, one of the things I noticed about you is that you speak fluent Russian. I mean, you are, you speak,
Yes,
and obviously you have Russian background as well with your family, but you speak six languages, as a matter of fact, and that's a big plus for an international business entrepreneur, I would imagine, to be able to communicate, right? Um, so are you noticing other European expats like you coming and trying to start young, young ones that are trying to start families and businesses coming from the UK, coming from Italy, France, Germany? Are you noticing it like I am? Because I have been noticing that a lot of young people, not in the media or political sphere, but literally coming for a better life.
absolutely. I mean, in terms of the language side, you're always working with people, and you're
Mm-hmm.
always working with cultures. So if you're able to grasp the culture through the language, you have a huge advantage in working with anything. I mean, you don't have that language barrier. That's it. It becomes a lot easier to do anything. In terms of young people coming in, oh yes. I mean, I own a hotel nearby, and we're just doing some restructuring work, and we're thinking of turning this into apartments. And I was speaking to my contractor, and she was saying that right now the biggest buyers of apartments and flats in Russia are Germans, young Germans, and this is below 40,
Mm-hmm.
young Americans, young Brits, and obviously, you have all the Chinese, you have the Africans that are coming in, you have the Southeast Asians, you have a lot of Indians coming in, young guys, being pushed to Russia because they really do understand that within the next 5 years, this country is going to explode. It's going to be the international hub for everything. I mean, look at how everything is going.
Yeah,
Russia has number one headlines everywhere,
yeah.
and it has been like this for a while, but it's been increasing. So I really, really, really do recommend, guys, if you want to start a business and you don't know where, I will help you. I will help you because this place is a gold mine for anyone
You
that
are
really,
very
really wants.
friendly, and you do. I've noticed you have mentored and helped people. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is the fact that for someone, usually people think of younger business people, particularly in America, as sharks, kind of, especially in the financial business. But you have a very different vibe. You seem very into helping others and mentoring others, being older or younger, it doesn't matter the age, but I liked that. And one of the things that I liked hearing was that you actually used some of your talent and money to help in India. Could you talk a little bit about your project there?
I mean, first of all, I've had a lot of help from people. And, this world and this life is really a give and take. However, it's really, first of all, a give. So what you project, you get back. And, I don't do it to get anything back. That's just how I want to live my life. I want to help people. If there is someone that needs help crossing the road, I'll help them cross the road. If someone needs, $100, I'll give them $100. It's not an issue because we're all in this together and we're all one race. We really need to remember that. That's really, really, I really would like to stress that point that we should, fight less and be merrier. In terms of India, yes, I actually went to India about 2 months ago, and unexpectedly, I was there on a semi-spiritual journey. Unexpectedly, on one of my last days of meditation in a temple, I I was walking around this town in Bodh Gaya, and one young gentleman, he was about 20, he approached me, and because I was literally the only white person there, he asked me where I was from. I replied that I was from Italy, and he asked me, and he said, "Look, we have a free school down the road. Would you like to come teach some languages there?" And I was like, "I mean, sure. When?" Uh, he said, "Right now." I'm like, "Oh, okay, let's go." So we woke up for about
Um,
5 minutes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We walked for about 5 minutes, and we passed these, wooden gates, and I go into a courtyard, which is pretty much there's dirt everywhere. I mean, yeah, dirt everywhere. It's very there is no gravel, there is no, there is no tiles, there is nothing, and there's these bamboo sort of huts where there's a bunch of children sitting there. And I'm like, so this is your school? And they're like, yes, this is the Lord Buddha free school for the poorest children in India, which cannot afford an education because even going to school is expensive. I mean, these kids didn't have shoes, they didn't have books, they didn't have anything. And that's all well and good. I mean, we know that this reality exists throughout the majority of the world. But when I started teaching them languages, there was what really, really affected me was a couple of kids whom I was teaching, and I was teaching them in two, three different languages. And there was a couple of kids who just they could repeat everything I was saying, and I mean, I looked into their eyes and I saw immense intelligence. They're much more intelligent than me. Their potential could be limitless. I mean, these guys could invent, I don't know, space travel, and then you could really, really see the intelligence of these 3 to 4 year old children. I mean, they're very, very young. They don't have shoes, but they're much smarter than all of us. And in that moment, I was like, oh, well, I mean, meditating is all well and good, and being spiritual is all well and good, and making money is all well and good, but come on, you have these beautiful young children who really could change the world, and maybe I don't know, maybe I can help, maybe I cannot, but I will definitely try. And so yes, sometimes I did teach at that school, but mostly I try to help them financially because I mean they just built a toilet there, they just built a bath there, so you understand what reality means. I mean, I mean, I think you have some of the videos that I sent you, and if you
yes.
like to show people, your viewers, that they will understand really how
Yeah.
everything is.
Yeah. Reef was showing them while you were talking. Yes. So
Oh,
that the
okay.
audience had the view. And then of course, you have down below, audience, for those of you that are watching, we have the link so that you can follow this. So this is free school. What is the full name of the school that you help and that
It's the
that
Lord Buddha Free School.
Lord
Lord
Buddha?
Buddha Free School. Yes.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. Very awesome. And it's interesting. We're living in this really amazing time where there is innovation. There are things. We are talking about space travel. We are talking about AI. We're talking about AIs creating jobs or taking jobs away. There's a lot of fear-based conversations around AI. President Putin said something interesting, though, 2 years ago. He said, whoever harnesses AI, and I'm loosely translating, but whoever harnesses AI and who owns it, the technology, will run the world. Do you think he's right? And has AI and space travel and some of the exploration of the universe kind of come into your path, and in what way?
I mean, I don't think there is anyone who is an entrepreneur below 30 who hasn't used ChatGPT or any of the new language models and understood the vast potential that this could have. I mean, already in software, in the legal sphere, in IT, it helps you write code. With design, it helps you create pictures. It helps you write text. It helps you with so many things. I mean, imagine what it could do if integrated with a manufacturing process. It's yes, of course, you will run the world. You also incur in running the risk of making a lot of jobs obsolete, which absolutely that will happen very soon. I mean, next 5, 10 years, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening
But
any
there'll be
later
a
than that.
balance, right? Because there'll be creation of other jobs that we hadn't thought of, right?
Mm, hopefully,
Hopefully.
hopefully we will go that way and not become a population of consumers, which it might look like that. I mean, there has been talk of a universal income
Mm-hmm.
for everybody, in anticipation of what might happen with AI. So yes, absolutely.
Wait,
The person,
wait,
yes.
go back to that universal income. Now, in the US, they've talked about that, but it's basically poverty level. You can't go anywhere, you can't really live, you can't travel for sure. On kind of what they were talking about. I mean, it's just basic to survive and get by to the next day. What are you talking about by universal income? What do you mean?
Well, I really do believe that if AI takes over as much as it would take over, um, we would either go into, a part of the population will move into rural areas and start farming again because they'll be just annoyed with the current state of world affairs. The other part will become consumers. And in order for the manufacturing processes and the big guys to earn money, they need to sell to someone. And if you don't have people with money who are able to buy those things, um, I mean, the factories are going to close down. They're going to run out of business. They're going to be stuck. So one thing that they could do is give a basic universal income, which is one of the ideas that's actually being run in a lot of governments right now throughout the world. This is not just, enough to survive. Like, I don't know, for example, for a US citizen, imagine like a $600 to $800 monthly payment. No, this could be something like a $1,500, $2,000 payment, which would allow you to live and to, you know, almost live, survive, but not survive. Give you a leeway to enjoy your interests, but not too much. And I'm very afraid of that. I'm very afraid because I'm afraid that people might get very, very complacent with that. I mean, look at any worker. I mean,
Well,
at
I'm sorry,
McDonald's,
but
they're not.
I'll have to stop you there. Aspetto un momento, as we say in Italy. Aspetto un momento, because 1,000, 2,000 won't even cover rent in the US. So you've got transportation, you've got medical, you've got education, you've got, I can't talk about England, but I do know something about it and the way it runs. Ireland is having a housing crisis and people are living in poverty and they've let, that's a mess. But one to two, $1,500 wouldn't allow people to be complacent or enjoy anything. They still won't be surviving and they still wouldn't even be able to cover rent. Right now, the average rent, for instance, in Seattle, Washington, for a one-bedroom apartment is $2,500 to $3,000 a month. That's not including any utilities, and that's not including transportation.
Well, I
So,
might be wrong on the numbers in the
yeah.
US.
So what I'm
I'm
saying,
actually,
yeah. Go ahead.
yes. So sorry to interrupt again.
Yeah.
In Italy, the average salary of a worker, of an office worker, goes from 1,100 to 1,500 euros. So
Okay.
if we go back to any European country, I will go there because I've actually never been in the US, so I don't know the reality as well. If we talk about Europe, that would be enough for someone to live, and a lot of people would choose that over a 60-hour, over working 40 hours or 50 hours a week. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
sure they will,
Mhm.
especially with given the fact that you understand that maybe the amount of growth that you can achieve in a company is limited. So why work?
Right.
I mean, you could just take the money and enjoy your life.
Yeah. I see it, but there's a bigger fear with AI, and that is that humans in general, that AI turns against humans. Elon Musk has talked about that. What do you think that's fear mongering, or do you think that's a realistic fear? And frankly, looking at our military industrial complex and looking at what they're doing in the U.S. with robo dogs. Remember the flat? They have the flame throwing robo dogs now, the mechanical robo dogs. They're going to be using them in the police forces and unleashing them for crowd control soon this year. Yeah, I know. Flame throwing, just like it's almost science fiction, but it's real. So, do you feel like there is an element of the elite predator class that will start using AI against humans to depopulate? Is that a real fear that Elon Musk had talked about it and other people?
I think there's a lot of depopulation programs that are already being run. I think the AI, in terms of military AI and policing AI, will be used mostly to control people and to instill fear.
Mm-hmm.
However, this might really, really get out of hand. I mean, we've all seen the numerous sci-fi movies where, they project that reality, and we really do understand that this is a big risk. So yes, there is a huge risk. That is up to the governments, that is up to the big guys to control and to limit, which actually is a very pessimistic outlook.
Well, let's go optimistic, right? Because the universe, it's interesting to look at the universe. I've always had a personal interest in quantum physics and string theory, and now we're moving beyond string theory and the concept of time and the reality that time is not linear. We know that. And applying some of that knowledge to trying to go into outer space, because we need to go faster than the speed of light in order to actually perhaps visit another world in our lifetime, right? We have to, be able to move within that. And so now there's talk about dimensional travel, rather than trying to overcome it through energy or like moving, like physically moving fast. It's more about energy and dimensional thought. So what are some optimistic ideas that come to mind when I put that out there?
Mm, well, I believe that we really don't need to do any scientific development for that. I mean, we have the strongest piece of technology available to us, which is our brain. I really believe that developing brain faculties is the number one priority of every human being. This might be through meditation, through reading, through exploring other dimensions. I really don't want to call esotericism. I really don't want to call it magic. I really don't want to call it anything else. This is really an expansion of the human psyche, and we're really seeing it more and more. I mean, how many of you, before receiving a text from someone, think of that person? This happens all the time to everybody. And you know that it happens because we are all connected psychologically and psychically through a very vast network. In terms of interdimensional travel, I can only advise for anyone to look into out of body experience and out of body experiences and astral projection, because those two practices will allow you to visit any kind of world you want and meet other people in a different dimension, in a psychic dimension. You could have conversations, you and I, if we're practitioners who are very well versed in these two practices, so astral projection, we could go and have a conversation in the fourth to fifth dimension. And we could come back, wake up and be like, hey, Tara, how did you enjoy that conversation? And you'd be like, yes, Mark, well, thank you for telling me that secret. I won't tell anybody. And this really works. It's For some people it's science fiction, for some people it's fantasy, for some people it's just
Oh,
empty
the
talk and
CIA
super.
actually has a program studying the human consciousness and studying exactly what you're talking about and people's ability to have out of body. So that's been happening for decades actually, and that's been
Yes,
recorded.
they
Yeah.
released, I believe, a document in the 1980s or something like that, describing out of body experience and the nature, the illusory nature of our universe. So
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
I think it is for me when I think about it, it's our limited senses and our perception of time. We have a limited perception of time, right? We see it as linear because we experience it in a linear way. Our morning, afternoon, night. We experience aging. We experience it in a very limited linear way. So it is hard to grasp, I think, with limited senses. And I always remember something. My mother was an artist, and she explained to me one time when she was doing a painting. She said, I was saying that I like this particular color. It was blue, a certain blue that she had, and she was explaining the azure blue. And she said, actually, Tara, she said it's every other color except that color. But your eye, the way your cornea is, and the fragmentation of light perceives it that color, but it's actually it's actually every other color except that color. So that always puzzled me that we had such that our senses actually were fooling us in so many ways.
It's
But yeah.
funny that your mother told you that, because actually one very close person to me told me the same exact thing very recently, and she happens to also be an oil painter. So yes, they see and interpret things in many different ways, and in amazing ways. That is for sure.
Yes, yes, it is very, very interesting. So, as far as going back to Moscow, and I know a lot of our audience wanted to hear about being an expat in Moscow, you kind of have a unique position in that you weren't really Russian. You weren't raised here, you weren't whatever. How were you treated in the business world and just in friendships or romantic relationships or whatever it is that you endeavored on here in Moscow? How did the Russian community treat you? And what were your experiences with that? Was it really positive? Was it mixed? Was it, what was it like?
Well, I can tell you something very interesting about this because it really depends how you position yourself. I mean, I have the opportunity to position myself as Russian or as foreign. And I found that when I position myself as foreign, so I say that I'm Italian, I introduce myself, maybe I have a little bit more of an accent, uh, people absolutely love you more here. They love foreigners. They really, really, as soon as they hear that you're foreign, they will start asking where you're from, what you do, how's life where in your country that you live. How the hell did you move to Russia if you're like from Italy or from the US or from California? I mean, they don't understand it. If you position yourself as Russian, which I have done many times, you're not interesting. You're just another Russian, and there is plenty of Russians here. So for expats, trust me, you will be loved.
Yeah,
You will
I
be
mean, I've
loved.
experienced this similar thing, or I've even had people run up to me on the street and like, grab my hand and ask me questions, and just be so excited to be able to speak English.
Yes, I want to ask you a question, Tara.
Mhm.
So, what do you think is? Let me put it this way: do you think Moscow is safe for a woman?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been lost. I'm very directionally impaired. Like as much as I love esoteric conversations and I feel like I know my way, I am the worst at directions. And I've been lost in Moscow many times, and sometimes in the middle of the night because I happen to be out with friends or whatever, and then get separated and going back to my flat. And I've been walking in Moscow at 2 in the morning before, and then got lost and felt perfectly safe. In fact, a couple helped me navigate home. People are very protective. I've never been scared here, and I've never been robbed. Nothing. In fact, once I dropped my debit card, and someone ran down the street and found me and gave it to me.
Absolutely. And now compare that to Europe, compare that to cities like London, cities like New York, cities like Rome, cities like Milan, cities like Paris, cities like Berlin. I mean, cities like Istanbul, any other city in the world. Oh, a girl or a woman will not feel safer anywhere than Moscow. I can guarantee that. Every and women here are incredibly, incredibly privileged. They
Mhm.
have the privilege to start businesses. What the West thinks about women and how they're portrayed here is absolutely wrong. Women here earn more money than men. They start more businesses than men. They're more successful than men. There's a 55% population of women against 45% male population. And for a woman who would like to start a business or who would like to move up in the world, I really do recommend coming to Russia because it's Moscow, especially Moscow, St. Petersburg, any of the big cities. It's incredibly safe. All my girlfriends, they say that they don't feel safe in Europe. They feel safe here. Even the expats that come here, they're very surprised at the fact that you know maybe in the outskirts, 50 kilometers from the center, something might happen. But if someone approaches you, then you'll have two more guys who will approach that guy and tell him to just buzz off.
Yeah.
This is the reality.
Yeah, I don't see, and what's happened with the US is there's been a huge increase of homelessness, drug use openly on the streets. And like I lived in Seattle most recently when I was in the United States, and I don't recognize the city from when my daughter was little, just 10 years ago or whatever. I mean it's unreal. You can't walk. I mean, you have to worry when you go to the ATM. You have to like cover everything. You have to make sure you're close to your car, that you can run, that you have your money. I mean, it's like that. It's almost like in certain parts of Seattle, it's like a freaking war zone. And New York's the same way. I did not feel safe in New York. And I had two incidents happen in just a space of a couple of days where I was worried about getting money stolen or my purse stolen. And you have to be really aware and really vigilant. And you can't take the subway when you're a woman alone in New York. It's not safe. And not to mention, it's not very clean. It's very nasty. And here it's so efficient and clean and pristine. And, you just don't have that. It's not perfect. I mean, every city has its flaws, but I don't see open drug use in the parks or homeless people on the streets. In fact, there's an 80% flat ownership. Like in Moscow, 80% of the population owns their own flats and even has a dacha, which is a little vacation home. And that's really something. That's really cool.
Yes, I mean, there is literally no homeless people around. There is no drugs used whatsoever. Even like if you do, I don't know, it's frowned upon by the population to do something like that. And that is the main thing, the culture polices itself. And that is the beauty of Russian literature and, the Soviet upbringing. The culture really does police itself. And I really recommend for anyone that has, I would say, even Christian value, Jewish values, basic human values who want to see a world where people are treated as people and not
Yeah.
as numbers, they will really, really thrive here. And they will really, really enjoy the Russian reality because here we don't blow smoke in people's eyes. We are how we are. We love what we do. And we love each other most of all. And that really, really, really can be seen if you just take a stroll on the street.
Well said. Well said. And thank you for the great conversation. We touched on a lot of really interesting topics, and let's hope that our world can find peace and that love that I've seen all around me here in Russia. I hope that can translate all over the world, because the world needs peace right now, a lot more of it. So thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for
But
this interesting conversation.
to
Yeah.
that I will say Inshallah, Amen, and Baruch Hashem. I mean, I don't know how to say it in any other ways, but I mean those three can encompass a lot. I really,
And in
really do
Italy,
hope that happens.
in Italian, how would you say it?
Speriamo bene.
There you have it. There you have it. Beautiful. Bella. Che bella. Che bello. Che bello.
Che bello.
All right. Well, molto grazie. Arrivederci, Mark. It was great to have you on the show, and we'll have you on again. And good luck with all your endeavors. I am going to enjoy my beautiful, lovely bag here. And, for those of you that are watching, check out his links and check out Mark on Instagram and all of his things. And if you have questions about if you want to start a business or just ideas or, just ask him questions, feel free to do so. And Reef, before we sign off, do you have any audience questions or any live questions that came through? Okay. Words of support. Wonderful. Well, words of support are important. And thank you. Thanks again, Mark, for your time. And for those of you watching, we'll be back next week. And I will be having Cynthia McKinney, who is one of the international election observers. She's now in Bangladesh, and she's going to be talking about some of the geopolitical things that are happening, life in Bangladesh, and the shifting of consciousness that's happening with now the multipolar world. So take care, everyone. And on the East Coast in the America, it is afternoon, so good afternoon. And to the rest of the world, good evening. Take care. See you next time.